The battlefield mistake. The ground shook with each step of the alien war machines. Giant steel legs crushed the rocks as the soldiers of the Tharnak Empire marched forward. They had conquered dozens of planets before, but today they were hunting. Something knew a single human. Commander Rylek stood tall on the hill, looking down at the battlefield with his red eyes glowing. He had long silver armor and 4 arms, each holding a different kind of weapon. His voice was loud and cold. "Target is in Sector 9, 1 human. Eliminate him." Soldiers obeyed immediately. They moved like a swarm, fast, disciplined, and deadly. Scout drones flew above, tracking every movement. Soon, the human was spotted near a cliff edge. The human's name was Dax. He looked small and weak compared to the tall, armored aliens. He wore only a dusty black jacket and some strange, skin-tight gloves, no weapons, no armor. Just calm eyes and steady feet. An alien soldier shouted. "He's not even armed." Rylek raised one hand. "It doesn't matter. Disintegrate him." A giant plasma cannon was aimed. Its glowing blue barrel lit up, humming with deadly energy. The Tharnak soldiers stepped back as the shot fired with a loud crack. Boom! The explosion shook the ground. Dust and fire filled the air. For a moment, no one could see anything. Soldiers waited in silence, expecting to see a burned body, maybe. Only ashes. But as the smoke cleared, he was still standing, not a burn, not a scratch. Not even his clothes had a hole. The alien warriors stepped back, some gasping. One whispered, "What is he?" Rylek's jaw tightened. "It's a trick. Fire again." Another plasma shot blasted the human's position. The same result. Dax didn't even flinch. He stood like a mountain, unmoved. Suddenly, one of the younger soldiers, Varex, moved forward. He had trained his whole life to fight humans, but he had never seen one in person. His voice shook. "Commander, our weapons don't work on him." Rylek growled, "That's impossible. Try the void spears." 3 elite warriors threw long glowing spears made of dark energy. The spears soared fast, meant to pierce tanks. But before touching Dax, they simply melted into smoke. Nothing touched him. Nothing worked. The soldiers began to whisper. Fear spread like poison. Some took a step back. One even dropped his weapon. Their strongest tools were useless. Dax finally spoke. His voice was calm but deep. "I didn't come to fight. But you made the first move." He raised his right hand, but not to attack. Just a simple wave. Still, the aliens flinched. Then something unexpected happened. Dax began walking toward them. No rush. No fear, just calm steps. He walked straight through the broken rocks, through smoke and fire, like it didn't matter. The Rex stood in front of him now. The young warrior had never felt afraid in battle before. But his hands were shaking. He looked up at Dax, who stood just a few feet away now. The human's eyes were clear, almost peaceful. Varex whispered, Why don't our weapons work on you?" Dax gave a small smile. "Maybe your weapons don't work on what you don't understand." Rylek screamed from the hill, "Fall back, regroup, prepare the railguns." The soldiers pulled back in a panic. They had never retreated from one man before. But this wasn't just a man. This was something else. Something impossible. The Tharnak Empire had strong technology, powerful ships, and endless armies. But now, they were facing something that didn't follow the rules. And deep in his heart, Varex knew this human was not just immune. He was a message, a warning, and maybe the beginning of the end for the Empire. The fear spreads. It started with a rumor, not from the commanders, not from the war machines, but from a frightened soldier who whispered to another, "I saw the plasma beam hit him and bounce back." At first, no one believed it. But then the second soldier confirmed it. Then a third. By nightfall, the entire Tharnak outpost near Sector 9 was buzzing with one thought: humans are immune. Inside the Tharnak base, fear mixed with confusion. War Council sat in a dark, round room with glowing blue lights on the walls. Commander Rallick slammed his 4 fists on the table. "This is not possible. No one is immune to our weapons. The human must have a hidden device, or a new type of armor." An older war priest, blind in one eye, shook his head slowly. "Or perhaps the human isn't wearing anything. Perhaps he has changed." Rallick ignored him. "I want answers. Scientific ones." Meanwhile, outside the command center, the soldiers were restless. Some cleaned their guns again and again, though they knew it wouldn't help. Some stared at the jungle, watching for any human movement, and some were quietly packing their bags. Virex didn't leave, though. He couldn't. He stood at the edge of the field where the human had walked through the explosions. No fire remained, no smoke. Just footsteps. Deep, clean, undamaged footsteps on the blackened soil. Virex bent down and touched the footprint. Still warm. Still fresh. "Why didn't he run?" he whispered. "Why didn't he fight?" Then he heard it crunch. A sound behind him. He turned. Around fast, weapon ready. But it wasn't a soldier. It was him. Dax. The human. Standing at the edge of the jungle, barely 10 meters away. His black jacket fluttered slightly in the wind. His face was calm, his hands by his side. He didn't raise a weapon. He didn't move to attack. He just looked at Virex. And then turned around. And walked away. Virex could have shouted for backup. He could have fired, but something inside him said no. Not fear. Something else. Curiosity. That night, Virex made a decision. He wouldn't report what he saw. He wouldn't tell Rallick. Instead, he would follow the human. Alone. Virex moved through the dark jungle, quiet and fast. His armor adjusted to the terrain. His breathing was slow and practiced. He followed broken leaves, bent plants, and soft step signs only a trained warrior would notice. The path led him to a cliffside, where he saw something that made him freeze. The human had set up a camp, a simple one. No machines, no fire. Just a folded blanket, a strange cube glowing softly beside it, and Dax sitting quietly, eating what looked like dried alien fruit. No defense systems. No alarms. He was totally exposed. What kind of warrior sleeps like this? Virex thought. Then something even stranger happened. Dax pulled out a small silver device and began speaking to it. Log entry 32. Subject: Tharnak weapons ineffective, possibly due to nanofiber skin integration. Armor layer continues to evolve. Energy absorption rates rising. Virex blinked. He didn't understand all the human's words, but he understood one thing. This wasn't magic. It was science. Advanced science. The human wasn't protected by luck or gods. He was part of something new. Back at the alien base, panic was spreading faster than ever. One of the captains had quietly told his squad to avoid the human. Another officer sent a request to HQ. Request immediate evacuation or orbital strike. Local weapons are ineffective. Rallick, furious, declared martial law. He shouted in front of the troops, "The human is not immortal. We just haven't found the right weapon yet. Tomorrow we use the sonic cannons." But no one cheered. No one believed him anymore. They had seen the human walk through explosions. They had seen weapons fail. And worst of all, they had seen fear in their leader's eyes. Virex, still watching Dax from the trees, made a quiet decision. He would not kill this human. Not yet. He needed to know more. "What are you really?" he whispered. Dax suddenly looked up directly at him. No fear. No surprise. Just calm. And then he smiled. As if he had known all along that Virex was there. Virex's confession: it was supposed to be a quiet night, but Virex couldn't sleep, even inside the armored barracks, even with the sounds of humming shields and distant patrols. His mind was loud, echoing with one thing: the human saw him. Not just saw him, smiled at him. And Varex had felt exposed. Like Dax was looking not just at his face, but straight into his thoughts. By morning, Varex had made his choice. He removed the red rank badge from his armor. He took only one weapon and powered it down. Then alone, he walked into the jungle. No orders, no backup, just him, a warrior of Tharnak, going to meet the enemy. The sun filtered weakly through thick jungle leaves. Strange birds chirped overhead. And somewhere close, water dripped slowly from a mossy rock. Varex found Dax sitting by a stream, crouched down, gently washing a metal object in the water. A strange black cube with blinking lights. The human didn't turn around. "You came earlier than I expected," Dax said calmly. Varex's jaw tightened. "How did you know I'd come?" Dax stood slowly and looked over his shoulder. "Because if I were you, I'd want answers too." They stood across from each other, two soldiers from different worlds, one from a bloodthirsty empire. One from a dying earth. And both knew something had changed. Varex finally spoke. "Why do our weapons fail? What are you hiding?" Dax tilted his head, as if deciding how honest to be. Then he tossed the black cube to the ground. It hummed softly. "It's not a shield. Not magic. This is part of a bioreactive armor system. But it doesn't sit on the skin. It becomes the skin." Varex narrowed his eyes. "Impossible." Dax held out his hand. "Touch it." The alien hesitated, then slowly reached forward. His claw-like fingers brushed Dax's skin, but it wasn't normal. It felt warm, alive, but also shifting, like it was changing under his touch, like it was reading him. Varex jerked back. "It's intelligent." Dax nodded. "It learns. Every energy weapon you fire, every projectile, it adapts." Silence fell, a long, deep silence. Then Varex did something he never imagined. He fell to one knee, not in fear, but in respect. "You are the most dangerous thing the galaxy has ever seen," he whispered. "And yet, you don't attack." Dax sighed. He sat back down and picked up the cube again. "Because I didn't come here to kill anyone. I came here looking for a signal, a lost human drone. But your people saw me as a threat and opened fire." Varex lowered his head. He believed him, and that made things worse. Because it meant his people had made a mistake. Back at the Tharnak base, Commander Ralek was losing control. His officers whispered about resigning. Weapons were being tested non-stop, each one failing against human data simulations. Fear had replaced confidence, and Ralek knew only one thing could fix it: a public kill. "I want that human's head on a spike by sunrise," he roared. But in the jungle, something strange was happening. Varex and Dax sat together now, not as enemies, as curious soldiers. Varex spoke slowly. "You said you were looking for a signal?" Dax nodded and tapped the black cube. A hologram floated above it, showing a distant planet, burning red, with blinking dots. "A scout drone from Earth. It was shot down near here. It contains data on your empire's weaknesses." Varex's eyes widened. "So you are dangerous." Dax looked at him seriously. "I can be, but I don't want to be. I'm tired of war." For the first time in his life, Varex understood that feeling. He looked at his armor, at the sharp weapons on his belt. He had been trained to destroy, not to think. But now he was thinking. Suddenly static buzzed through his communicator. Ralek's voice barked. "Varex, you are near the target. Give us his location now." Varex froze. Dax looked at him, calm but alert. "You have a choice to make," Dax said. "Right now." Varex slowly lifted the communicator. His fingers hovered over the button. And then he switched it off. No signal, no betrayal, just silence. "I think I need more time," Varex whispered. Dax nodded. "Then we might just survive this war together." The secret behind the shield, the jungle was quiet. Too quiet, even the birds had stopped singing. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. That's when Virex felt it, a low hum beneath. The ground not natural, not safe. He looked at Dax, who was staring into the sky with sharp eyes. Something had changed. "They're coming," Dax said softly. Virex pulled out his scanner. Multiple dots, all closing in fast. "They found us." "How? I didn't send the signal." Dax didn't answer. Instead, he stood and pressed 2 fingers to the black cube. Suddenly, the air shimmered around them, and a dome of invisible energy formed just in time. Seconds later, a blast from the trees struck their location, an explosion of red lightning. But the shield held. Not even a leaf inside the dome moved. Virex stumbled back, eyes wide. "What is this? That's not armor. That's a fortress." Outside the shield, Tharnak warriors poured in from every side. Commander Ralek stood at the front, riding a hover beast, roaring orders. "Surround them! Bring down the human! Use the sonic cannons!" Huge cannons with spinning cores were dragged into position. Inside the dome, Virex turned to Dax. "You need to run." Now, but Dax was calm. He tapped his cube again, and a second dome appeared around them, this time humming louder. "I'm not running. It's time you saw what this really is." Then the sonic cannons fired. A pulse wave smashed into the shield. The trees around them shattered. Rocks cracked, but inside, silence. The energy was absorbed. The dome didn't even shake. Virex blinked. "Your shield eats sound?" Dax nodded. "It eats everything. Light, heat, force, and it learns." He stepped out of the dome. Virex grabbed his arm. "Are you insane? You'll die." Dax didn't answer. He walked through the shimmering wall like it was air. And then something unbelievable happened. The air on Dax started to glow, not from the dome. From his skin, Commander Ralek froze. He saw the human walking calmly toward the front line, completely unarmed. Glowing faintly like a walking sun, Ralek screamed, "Fire! All weapons!" Dozens of energy blasts shot toward Dax from every direction, but each one bent away, not blocked, not stopped, just redirected. As if Dax's body refused to be touched. Virex watched in shock. This wasn't armor. This wasn't tech. This was evolution. Dax finally stopped walking and raised one hand. "I'm not here to destroy you, but I will defend myself." His voice echoed strangely, as if the jungle itself carried his words. Ralek screamed again. "You think you're a god, human? You're just meat wrapped in tech." "No," Dax replied. "I'm just what happens when meat stops following your rules." Suddenly, one of the Tharnak railguns exploded from the inside. Another caught fire. Soldiers screamed and dropped their weapons. Some fled. Ralek barked curses, but his troops weren't listening anymore. Inside the chaos, Virex slowly stepped out of the protective dome too. Some of the Tharnak warriors raised their weapons at him, confused. Wasn't he one of them? He raised his voice. "Stand down. This human is not the enemy. He didn't attack until you forced him to." No one listened. Until Dax turned toward the soldiers. His eyes glowed now. "I don't want to hurt you," he said, "but I will survive." A final wave of pressure pulsed from his body, and the remaining Tharnak soldiers collapsed to their knees, holding their heads. Not dead, just overwhelmed. Silence returned. Commander Ralek crawled to his feet. His armor cracked. His pride shattered. He stared at Dax with hate. "What are you?" Dax looked down at him and simply said, "I'm what comes after fear." Virex walked to his side and whispered, "You said it adapts. But how?" Dax tapped his chest. "Nanits. Billions of them. They rebuild, learn, evolve. I was part of Earth's final experiment, a living defense system, but it fused with me. I'm not just wearing it." He looked Virex in the eye. "I am it." Virex didn't speak. He couldn't, because in that moment, he realized something terrifying. The Tharnak Empire had awakened something they could never control, and maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Betrayal from the skies. A metal bird circled above the trees, silent, high, and invisible to most scanners. Inside, a small blinking light turned from yellow to red. The order had been confirmed. Eliminate the human. Eliminate Virex. Far below, deep inside the jungle, Virex stood beside the human, once his enemy. Now something closer to an uneasy ally. Charred smoke still floated through the leaves from the failed Tharnak attack. The enemy troops had scattered after Dax released that final wave of pressure. But Virex knew it wasn't over. The Empire never gave up after one failure. They always sent more, and worse. Dax sat near a cracked boulder, repairing his cube. Sparks danced between his fingers, and the metal seemed to grow under his touch. "They'll come again," he said without looking up. Virex nodded. "I know." Then his communicator buzzed. Encrypted. Hidden. Meant only for high-ranking soldiers. He stared at it for a moment. "This is High Command. Send target's coordinates immediately. Aerial strike in motion. This is your last chance, Virex. Serve the Empire." His claws trembled. He looked at Dax, so calm, so unaware. He remembered the fear in the soldier's eyes. Peace in Dax's voice, and yet. Virex hesitated. Then he tapped the screen. Message sent. Above. The strike ship changed direction. Its wings folded. Its weapons locked. Target confirmed. A countdown began. 30 seconds to impact. Back on the ground. Dax suddenly paused. His cube stopped glowing. He slowly turned his head toward the sky. "You told them." Virex froze. I had to. They threatened to burn my home city if I didn't." Dax didn't raise his voice. He didn't stand. He simply looked at him with deep sadness. "And you believed they wouldn't burn it anyway?" Then the air screamed. A thunderous roar came from above as a massive bolt of blue fire dropped from the sky. Not a missile. A planet-breaker spear. The kind used to destroy warships in orbit. Virex shouted, "Run!" But Dax didn't move. Instead, he stood and raised both hands. The ground cracked beneath him, the jungle trembled, and the sky tore open. A flash of white energy exploded outward. It hit the descending weapon and stopped it in midair. The spear shook violently and shattered into glittering dust. The clouds above glowed red. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then, Dax spoke, softly. "They sent a world killer for one man." Virex dropped to his knees. He couldn't breathe. His ears rang. "I'm sorry," he gasped. Dax finally turned to him and smiled. "But it wasn't warm. Now you know. They fear me more than they trust their own." Far away, inside the Tharnak command ship, Rallick watched the failed strike from a monitor, his face twisted in rage. "Bring me that traitor Virex. I want his body hanging from my cruiser." The officers around him stayed silent. One by one, they looked away. Rayleigh could see it in their faces, no doubt. He was losing them. In the jungle, Virex tried to stand. He didn't deserve to, but Dax helped him anyway. "Why did you spare me?" Virex asked. Dax shrugged. "You made a mistake. Now you've seen who they really are." He pointed toward the Tharnak skies. "They'd kill you just as quickly." That night, the stars above flickered strangely. Dax stared at the constellations. "I need to reach the crash site. My drone has the data Earth needs. It's the only way to stop this war before it spreads further." Virex said nothing for a long time. Then, with a deep breath, he removed his chest plate and threw it into the fire. "Then I go with you." Dax looked surprised. "You'll be hunted. Labeled a traitor." Virex smiled sadly. "I'd rather be a traitor than a coward who obeys monsters." They walked into the night side by side. An alien warrior and an impossible human. Not enemies. Not friends yet. But something new. And behind them, In the shadows of the burned trees, the Empire watched and planned its next move. The warrior's choice. The stars blinked overhead like distant eyes, watching everything, judging everything. Varek sat near the edge of a cliff, staring into the deep night sky. The jungle below him was quiet, but his heart was not. His hands were no longer steady. They shook. Not from fear of death, he was trained to die, but from something worse. He had chosen the human, and now he had no home left. Dax returned from the stream with water packs. His glow had faded since the last fight. His skin looked pale, like the shield inside him had taken too much. Varex noticed. "You're getting weaker." Dax nodded. "The energy I used to stop that spear. It drained the nanites. They need time to rebuild." Varex stood. "Then we need to move faster, if the Empire finds us again." Dax looked at him, tired but calm. "They will. They always do." Elsewhere, far above the jungle, inside the Tharnak capital ship Vengeance Fang, Ralik roared at his war council. "My own warrior betrayed me for a soft-skinned freak. And what do? Sit in silence like frightened prey?" One general spoke carefully. "Commander, Varex was loyal." "Perhaps there's more to this human than," Ralik snapped. "No. More perhaps, no more doubts. I will kill them both myself." He turned toward a sealed vault door at the back of the chamber. "Unleash Subject 13. The council gasped. One whispered. "But it's not stable." Ralik smiled darkly. "Neither am I." Back on the ground, Dax and Varex approached a tall rock ridge. Beyond it, the coordinates of the crashed drone, Earth's final scout probe. But they weren't alone anymore. A smell hit them first. Rotting metal and burning blood. Then came the sound. A dragging foot, a wet snarl, and finally, a shape, twisted, tall, screaming with rage and electricity. Subject 13. It was part Tharnak, part machine, part something else. Its body was armored in black, but pieces of raw muscle pulsed underneath. One eye glowed red, the other was missing. Varex raised his weapon. "What is that?" Dax didn't move. "A weapon that forgot it was once alive." Subject 13 roared and charged. The ground cracked under its steps. Varex fired first energy blasts, slammed into the beast's chest. But it didn't stop. It just absorbed the hits, laughing with a throat that sounded broken. Then it swiped, and Varex was thrown 20 feet into a tree. Dax stepped forward. Slowly, the monster stopped. They locked eyes. "You're the one," Subject 13 growled. "The human who made our weapons cry," Dax answered calmly. "And you're the monster they send when they run out of honor." They clashed, fist met fist. Energy exploded around them like a storm. In a bottle, trees burst into flames. The sky flashed white with each blow. But this time, Dax was slower. His nanites still drained. His punches didn't break metal. His body bled. Subject 13 grinned. "Not so godlike now, are you?" He grabbed Dax and slammed him into a rock wall. The mountain cracked. Varex crawled from the dirt, coughing blood. He looked at Dax, barely breathing, and then he looked at the beast. And he made his choice. Again. Varex ran forward and screamed, not in fear, but in defiance. "You want to fight? Fight me!" Subject 13 turned just in time to catch Varex's blade right between its ribs. Not enough to kill, but enough to bleed. Subject 13 threw him back, furious. But that one moment gave Dax enough time. His body lit up again, not fully but just enough. "Thanks, partner," Dax muttered. He drove his glowing hand into the beast's core. Subject 13 let out a horrible screech, metal and flesh shaking, before falling backward into the burning trees. Dead. Or at least finished. The jungle was quiet again, but nothing felt calm. Varex sat on the ground, his armor broken, face bleeding. Dax knelt beside him. "Why did you charge that thing?" Varex gave a small laugh. "Because I was tired of watching others be brave while I obeyed monsters." They looked up at the sky where another Tharnak cruiser appeared in orbit. More were coming, but for now. They had survived. Together. And the warrior who once followed orders had now chosen honor. Weapon of peace, the human stood in the heart of the enemy's world. Unarmed, exhausted, glowing faintly under alien suns. And yet he had never looked more dangerous. High above him, towers of the Tharnak Prime Council loomed, ancient structures built from stone, metal, and fear. Inside, rulers from every corner of the empire whispered in panic. He's here, alone? No army, no ships? It's a trick, must be a trap. But Commander Rallick knew better. He stood on the council floor, bruised and bandaged, teeth clenched. He walks in because he knows we can't stop him. No one argued. They had all seen the footage. The disintegrated weapons. The beast subject 13 dead in a crater. And worse. The traitor Virex, now walking beside the human. Inside the grand chamber, doors opened. Dax stepped in, head high. No armor. No tech in his hands, only truth. The council fell silent. Then one alien queen, old and sharp-eyed, leaned forward. What do you want, human? Surrender? Dax shook his head. Peace. The room erupted. Laughter, anger, shouting. Rallick roared. You destroyed our best weapon, slaughtered our soldiers, and now you ask for peace? Dax replied simply. I didn't destroy anything. You didn't aim at me first. Virex stepped forward. He threw his Tharnak warrior emblem onto the floor. It clattered loudly. This human spared me twice. Your soldiers? They would have killed me for asking questions. He pointed at the council. Your fear created this war. Not Earth, not him. Silence, until Dax raised his hand. You see a threat. But what you should see is a warning. He took a slow step forward. I'm not the strongest human. I'm just the first to arrive like this. A quiet gasp spread through the room. There are more? A general whispered. No, said Dax, but there will be unless peace begins now. Suddenly, Rallick pulled a blade. You threaten us on our own world? He charged, but Dax didn't flinch. Inches away from Dax's face, the blade froze mid-air, not blocked. Not caught. Stop. Rallick trembled as the weapon slowly bent backwards, on its own. No more war, Dax said calmly. Rallick dropped the blade, defeated. The room felt cold now. No one moved. Then, finally, the eldest counselor, a blind priestess from the outer ring, spoke. We have ruled with fear for too long. This human is not our enemy. She turned to the others. He is our mirror. And just like that, history changed. 1 week later, for the first time in over 200 years, Earth and Tharnak signed a peace treaty, not in blood, not in silence, but in full light, watched by 1,000 worlds. Virex stood beside Dax, on a new battlefield. But there were no weapons this time. Only builders, engineers, diplomats. Strange, Virex said. I used to think strength meant how many enemies you could crush, Dax smiled. Turns out it means how many enemies you can turn into allies. Later, a young alien girl approached Dax, her eyes wide. Are you really the human who can't be hurt? Dax crouched down. Anyone can be hurt. The trick is choosing not to hurt back. She nodded slowly, then hugged him. Virex watched, a small smile creeping across his scarred face. You may be a weapon, human, he whispered. But today you were used for peace. Above them, the stars shined brighter than ever, because for once, in a galaxy used to fire and fear, a human walked in with power and chose not to burn it all down.